Hey guys, Adrian here from smartermedia.org. It's been a while since I've done a vlog. I guess technically this would be vlog number 15. I've been extremely busy with work. I've been sick this week. That's the reason I'm not on video for this video. You're just gonna get audio. But also with school, I'm gonna be graduating soon. I'm a senior in high school, and I'm gonna be graduating to move on to work in the career I still work in today. Working from home and this business I run online. But I think the big question, both I've been talking with friends and all that recently, it's kind of been like, what's next? And I think it's kind of dawning on a lot of people and the realization that this is the final, hurrah, I guess, whatever, you want to call it, high school. It's to me, it's the milestone for your basic education. You have elementary, you have middle, and then you have high school, and you graduate. And whatever you do beyond there is completely up to the path you choose. Um, some will pursue higher education. A majority will go to college. That's what they call higher education. But don't think of that as the only path. There's so many different opportunities out there. Um, so many people are scared of what's next. Some people don't know what they want to do. And again, like, that's fine. You have so much ahead of you. Whether your path is going to be college, community college, vocational school, whether it's going to be going into the world of work, maybe signing into a military branch or just getting a job to get by, whether it's going to be doing something like me in self-employment and starting your own business and doing stuff like that. They all have risks to them, of course, but they're your own path and opportunity, and depending on what you choose. And overall, I think, I recently gave a speech at the Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology, a presentation regarding passion to profitability, how I took a hobby in the sixth grade and turned it into the business I own and operate today. The basic underlying philosophy in that whole presentation was do what you love. As cliche as that sounds, it applies to whatever you're going to do next in life. If I can advise anybody, if it can help anybody out there, you're gonna work more than work is gonna fill a huge part of your life. It's gonna probably spend, you're gonna spend a lot of time working, whether it is with, you're gonna spend a lot of time in terms of away from family, friends, and all that, all because of work. And if you are gonna spend that much time, exert all that effort and all that, you should do something you truly love and you're passionate about. And kind of putting on top of that, the future is your own. Whatever you do after high school, whatever it's college or major, whatever you major in, or whether it's starting your business, do what's best for you. It's great for your family and all that to see your achievements, but whatever you do after is not for your mom, your dad. It's not for your sister or brother. It's not for your girlfriend or boyfriend. It's for you, because again, whatever you want to do in life, that's all up to you. That's your future, and it sucks that people out there are forced to go into major into something they have no interest in because their parents want them to do that because they think it'll make a well-paying job, but the kids aren't happy. And you see this statistically. People are working 9 to 5 jobs that they truly hate, and it sucks. It really does. So with that, I kind of want to lean into things that, as somebody who's graduating from high school in literally a couple months, I think the 10 lessons I learned in high school that high school itself won't teach you, not just the educators, but things that you won't learn necessarily in high school, whether it's because they don't teach you or you just don't realize walking out of high school. Maybe it's ignorance, maybe it's whatever. And there's a lot of flaws, I think, in the school system, but these are just the 10 things I'm walking away with. Again, your results may vary. Maybe you went to a really great school with great educators and great people. I don't know. Let's jump right into it. Number one, college doesn't always equal success. Not to say that, I think right now the two basic jobs I can think of, that not basic, but main jobs I can think of, you required to go to college right now, are doctors and lawyers. You always hear that. For those two jobs, those level of education, that level of schooling, definitely you need to go for the medical school and law school. But outside of that, there's a lot of different alternatives. And just because, you know, you think that it's the status, and it's the norm, and it may be, but for a lot of people, they may not want to go into college. And think of it right now, student loans are the highest debt in America, and just because you get a college degree, it doesn't necessarily mean you're guaranteed a job. It may give you a small advantage over everybody, but there's a lot of other people out there who are, just as skilled and just as smart, and they don't have a college degree. Maybe that might get you the job, that piece of paper, but I like to think that you don't need a paper to kind of determine who you are and where you're going to be in life. So there's a lot of alternatives out there. For some of you, again, it may be college, but there's a lot of different alternatives. Maybe it's vocational school, maybe it's a community college, so you don't, cheaper schools, cheaper alternatives, or altogether, if you already know what you're passionate about, why don't you go out there and pursue it? If you have these dreams and aspirations, there's no time like when you're young. I like to think. Anyways, number two, what grades really determine? In high school, you won't really be told this as much, but I think, grades in some aspects have their weight on obviously grading and how you do in classes and if you pass them or not. Yeah, of course, they have that standard in the school system and somewhat when you go to college. And in college, it's even more detrimental because you pay for your classes. So if you fail one, then that's lost. And you're literally losing money. But grades don't determine your creativity, your overall intelligence. So don't think that your grades gauge how smart you are or how much you know. I know a lot of great people who may have, average grades or below average grades, but they know a lot about something or they know a lot about this or that, or they're really smart in this category. While most people would kind of throw them out because of their grades, because of a letter. Again, it kind of goes back to that degree kind of representing who you are. A letter shouldn't represent who you are and what you're capable of. Number three, entrepreneurship. This is definitely something I never saw in my school that was really pushed. The idea that you can go out and start your own business in something. I think the ideal of college and the ideal of students a lot is to, you go to school, you go to high school, you get good grades so you can get into a good college. You get to a good college so you can get a good job. You get a good job so you can get a lot of money, and you get a lot of money so you can be happy and live a somewhat either successful or, in general, a happy life. And that's great. For some people that might be the stepping stone, but the reality of that is it's going to be really hard. A lot of people are going to walk out not getting a job. A lot of people are going to walk out getting a job that doesn't pay. You're not going to be making $40,000-$60,000 a year right off the bat, unless you're lucky enough to go into a good job. But the aspect of entrepreneurship isn't really explored, I think, as much in college. That if you are truly passionate about something, and a lot of people go to college to find out what they're passionate about. A lot of people don't know, and again, that's totally fine. But if you know what you're passionate about, why not go out there and explore and try and work in that field? Try and start your own business while you have the time. College will always be there. College, you can go to college when you're 20, 30, or 40. Not to say that you can't pursue a business or an entrepreneurship when you're older, but the risks are so low when you're that much younger and you have so much time to bounce back. Number four, the real world. And I talked to my good friend Duncan Mail about this. In essence, high school doesn't really prepare you for life lessons. It prepares you for, this course knowledge and stuff you should go out there doing and knowing, drugs and alcohol. And they talk about that sort of stuff. But the real world is harsh. And I take the example of uniforms. Our school never used uniforms, but I read a lot of articles where educators would say, yeah, uniforms unify the kids in that they don't feel, belittled by other people who have better clothes than them and everybody's equal. That's great. But, when kids walk out into the real world, when kids walk out into their work environment or into, a new city or whatever, people are going to have better clothes than you. People are going to be richer than you, more successful than you. And you have to learn to deal with that. You have to learn to, I think that's an example of school showing how you can avoid an obstacle rather than overcome the obstacle. Bullying, for example. Bullying, it's not going to end in high school. You're going to have people bullying you and you're employing, employees will be bullies out there. Your bosses may be bullies out there. It's not going to end just because you walked out of high school. And when you walk out of high school, you're not going to have a teacher or a counselor to run to all the time in real world. So you need to learn to deal with these things rather than just avoid them, I think. Number five, friendships. Friendships are great, and you're going to meet a lot of great people, and I hope that, again, that inner circle of friends you have, you try to keep close to you as you grow up, but, a lot of people tend to have that falling out. That's how high school is. I definitely saw that with the friends I had. But on the side of friendships, you need to learn to be independent, and a lot of people, I think this is a big issue in the people I know in high school, that they can't depend on, just themselves, being alone, staying in for the weekend to study, to do whatever. They need that need for social interaction. While social interaction is great, I'm not saying stay inside all the time, but you need to learn, especially in moving on, whether it's college or whatever, to be your own person. Number six, there's so much after high school. I mean, that's not obvious enough, or that should be obvious enough, but I think the people who say that high school is going to be the best years of your lives, yeah, definitely live up high school, but high school is only a portion, a fraction of your life. It's 4 years of your life, if anything. You have so many years ahead of you, so much time ahead of you that, don't think of it as the best years of your life. And some people have really bad high school experiences, really crappy high school experiences. So, think of it as only a portion of your life and a door to so many different opportunities. Number seven, the smartest don't always prosper. And I don't want to downplay the people who really work for their achievements and work hard to get what they earn, but don't think of it as essentially it's always the smart people out there who are going to do better than you and all that. You don't need to be the smartest all the time. In reality, I think success is a lot about application, being at the right place at the right time and applying yourself. I think in life, The people who prosper are the ones who learn to deal with the cards they're dealt, whether they're really smart in this category or they're not. It's the people who can take something. Somebody can be really smart out there and have an idea, but somebody else out there who isn't so educated in that field may have that, see that idea or have that same idea and not know so much about it, but they'll go out there and they'll apply themselves. They'll go out there and create it, and they may be the one that benefits and makes millions off of it, whatever it is. So in reality, it's the people out there, I think, that prosper, that take what they're dealt with and they apply it. Number 8, there is no breaks in life. I mean, in school, you grow up around the system of vacations, winter break, summer, spring, semesters. Life isn't divided in semesters or breaks. You literally work 5 days a week, some cases even more. You'll work 9 to 5, in some cases even more. So, if you're going to spend all this time, again, working hard and working these hours and all that, again, going back to what I said earlier, really enjoy what you do. Don't be working a job that you truly hate just to get by and, killing yourself over it with these long hours, etc. Number 9, popularity really means less to nothing outside of school, I think. There's people who correlate studies to confidence and popularity groups, but nobody's going to care what group you came from. Nobody's going to care if you were popular in high school when you walk into these work groups and all of that, in your businesses that you're going to go to. That really doesn't matter. I mean, in college alone, there's, if anything that it's good for is that social interaction. You're going to meet a lot of great people, but there's so many different people out there. You're going to campuses of thousands of people, and you're gonna meet different people all the time, and not everybody's gonna know who you are. You need to get used to that. I think a lot of people kind of think they can ride on that whole I was popular in high school thing. That's it's sad that they think they can ride on that. But popularity outside of school really means less to nothing, especially when you're getting a job, etc. Number 10, I don't know if necessarily this is a lesson that school doesn't teach, but I think it's something that people should know, that your failures in life are going to be just as important as your successes. I think school, they do praise a lot of your achievements, to kind of, talk a lot about the good grades and all of that, but the realization that your failures in life are going to teach you so much more than your successes, I think. I started a lot of websites early on in my when I was younger, and ideas that I thought would take off, and they got nowhere. I invested money and invested time in it, and they got nowhere. I would label those some of those things a failure, but those failures and those things I started taught me a lot about the next thing I would start. They would teach me what I didn't, and what I needed to avoid, what I needed to not do, and all this other stuff. The lessons that those failures taught me really contributed to my next success in life, whatever it may be. So realizing that your failures will be just as important as your successes in life. I like to think by the mantra that you're always going to be the stupidest person in the room. That's personally what I believe. I'm always the stupidest person in the room. That gives me room to expand. That gives me room to know that, in life, it's inevitable. It's 100% sure that you're not always going to be the smartest out there. There's always somebody who knows way more than you. There's people who are really gifted in certain areas, that they know that much or know this much about whatever subject. And you have to accept that you, I think, in the fact thinking that you're the stupidest person in the room or the dumbest person in the room, and I don't, maybe you can use a different word, but you have so much room to grow. You have so much more to learn. And as cliche as it sounds, again, education really is a lifelong thing. I think it was, there's a quote that goes something like, formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. There's so much there to learn, and don't think that all these there's a whole bunch of different opportunities out there for you to learn. Don't think that you need to necessarily go to college to learn all this stuff. In this day and age, the resources we have, you can go online and you can watch a Harvard course on, I don't know, iPhone programming, for example, that kids pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to attend to at Harvard, and they have to get admitted and everything like that. You can watch that for free at your own leisure, from iTunes. That's the resources that we have at hand today. That's we can learn almost anything with the internet. And for that matter, you can go to your own public library and learn almost anything. Yeah, college, you're gonna have the social experiences, and you're gonna have professors and really great professors and stuff like that. But don't think that, you need school necessarily to learn. Not to throw a whole bunch of quotes out there, but it was also Mark Twain who said that, he never let school get in the way of his education. The resources are out there, and whatever you do next in life, don't be scared because you don't know what you want to do or you're not sure. A lot of people aren't sure. And if maybe the right choice isn't for you necessarily to go to a college and throw out all that money because you don't know what you want to do, but for some people, maybe it is. Maybe they'll go to college to find what they want to do. But I think it's more important to find really what you're passionate about in life. And then whatever it is, whatever route you take, college, work, employment, self-employment, whatever it may be, it's key to find what you enjoy doing and what you really love in life. Because that's the only way I think you're going to really live a happy life, and the only way you're going to truly put forward great work is to do what you love. I'm Adrian from smartermedia.org. I thank you very much for watching this vlog. I know it's a long one. I will catch you all in the next video.